All right. So, kind of a good opportunity. I don't know if it's on the greatest subject, but I have little phrases that I like about life. I think they're good guide points. So, one is choose your hard. Right. It implies that there's no easy path. And I think that is very true about life. So you get to choose which hard path you want to take, right? So there's a good example of, just showing all of this stuff. I'm going to get tons of kickback on this, right? So in attacks, people hate me and all this type of stuff. Like the other path is to try to hide everything, right? And kind of lock it down, be quiet, hope some stuff blows over, not have the discussion, not talk to anyone, not respond to anyone, and it will, right? It'll just go away. It'll just blow over. And that's what most politicians and whatnot do. Which I don't like. There's a different type of hardness to doing that, I guess. And so choose your hard. Which path do you want to go down? I'm obviously choosing this one, right? That's the path I've chosen the entire time I've been in office. So my philosophy on that has not changed. And then also be prepared to appreciate what you meet, right? And be prepared to appreciate what you meet. It doesn't say there's a qualification on what you meet. You're going to meet stuff in life. And so all this blowback and all these little accusations and stuff like that, there's value in them somewhere. And so what we see is people not engaging in the political stuff. And we see them engaging at a high level, right? The debate Biden, Trump, some stuff you have zero influence over. You just don't matter to at all, right? And your vote really doesn't matter. Even if they're counted correctly, right? The odds are that your single vote didn't make the difference, that your handful of friends didn't make the difference, that your dozens of acquaintances didn't make a difference. And so it probably didn't swing it. But in local matters, it can, right? It can have an impact. My grandmother, when I was younger, she was a trustee out in Blue Lake. And there was an election, I think I was 18, 19, something like that. And I had stayed at a girlfriend's in Muskegon, and she went and voted at her location, but we didn't drive out to Blue Lake to vote. And my grandmother was up for the election. She lost by 2 votes, which we knew more than 2 people that didn't vote. And that year for Christmas, my grandmother's very interesting, right? She's very direct and stuff. Interesting personality. People kind of either really liked her or really didn't like her, which I've heard I have some similarities to that. But for that Christmas, she gave me a lump of coal, a good old school solid piece of coal, which was just great, right? So so much grandma, and so great stuff. But it's 2 votes would have made the difference, right? And so on this local stuff, it's the point at which it makes sense to engage, and the fact that people are engaging over hobby, I think it makes sense to some extent, right? Because people feel the intensity of it. It's life, death, right? There's a bunch of threats and stuff like that. And so it's not good in some ways, but I think it's good in some ways. And so the engagement, at least the interest. And so, but I'm going to show you kind of, right, what that looks like. So a handful of hours ago, right, I recorded some of the postings, right, update on the hobby issue, part 2 and that type of thing. And so, and then there's been a bunch of stuff on Facebook, right, a bunch of Facebook comments, right, and people are talking about, not me giving calls back and all this type of BS, right? And so here are my voice messages. We'll go through them together.
Jeff Martin.
Hello. To send a message, press 2. You have no old messages. For
none. Right? So, it's people will comment on Facebook, right? But what else will they do? And then I'll show you the screen here. So, and I have some messages from Hobby. There's 2 people that have worked up to being willing to ignore, right? And they have a long history of me working a ton with them, more than any reasonable person would, right? I made sure I went to an unreasonable level. Both these people and both the people are absolutely crazy, right? And so one is McCabe, Kevin McCabe. He's come up for a bunch of stuff, and the other one is Ricky Hobby. And so Hobby messages me on the Fix Dalton Township with Jeffrey Alexander Martin page that I used for a campaign thing. Don't use it anymore. He's the only one that messages me on here. But I have some messages on here from last night and today. I have not listened to them. And so we'll get to listen to them together, right? We get to experience them together for the first time. And I'll also show you my emails that I've gotten in the last handful of hours, right? So here, I'll go to, and some of the Facebook, right, discussion. And you'll just see the difference of like the direct communication of the calls I'm getting and the emails I'm getting versus like what's happening on Facebook. It's just, that's kind of where the community has tried to be a community now, which just doesn't work, right? Human nature isn't built for it. It's breaking people psychologically. You're seeing a huge increase in suicides and stuff highly associated with that. So, but nevertheless, let me make it so we can see my screen, right? These are the messages that we'll go over. Here's some of the discussion in the concern group. We'll do emails first, right? So here's the emails. That was on, the last video, or the last update one, because I put up 3 more about those, some of the messages and whatnot. So there was this one, right? And then since then I've gotten this message, which is about negotiating. This company wants to negotiate over one of the cell tower leases. They called me about that before. We've had board meetings about it before, and it's just coming back around. And here's another one, the fact that my mailbox is almost full. And so, and actually, we can go over this a little bit. Let's go over the email a little bit, right? And so what we have on this is, you can see my deleted items are 8,793, right? And so updates from the senator, they're just updates. Update from the attorney general, the Census Bureau, right? Like there's a bunch of this type of stuff. And trail updates and Miss Dig updates and Indeed updates. And it's stuff that I want to be on, right? I'm just scrolling through some of it here so you can just see some of it. Like they're lists that I don't necessarily want to delete myself on. But they're also like not important, right? And so I delete them. I don't like the Microsoft search feature for the email. I prefer Google and use it privately. But that's what's here, and I don't see any good reason to change that. My junk mail, the automatic junk mail, is because the previous supervisor had the VFW, his account, coming here, and I could not get this thing to unsubscribe. I had emailed them and everything, but I couldn't get it to unsubscribe, so I just put it coming in here because it doesn't relate to me, right? So that that goes back a ways. And then I have something in the deleted emails too. It's like, I should permanently delete all these things, right? Governor Whitmer announces orange barrels, whatever. I haven't wanted to delete anything because it's like, the government emails, and I haven't wanted to delete them. And so support tickets and updates from MTA discussion boards and spam and road stuff, right? A bunch of different stuff there. And then in the inbox, if you look down here, you can see there's 21,000 read emails, right? And I don't know at what point those go back to exactly. They go back before me. So mine are the last few years. I'm not sure how far they go back before that, but that's why it is getting full, and I've asked for it to be increased several times, and it has been increased several times by Central Dispatch with the county. But at some point I should delete those emails and free up some of that space. I've just been hesitant to. Right, but so that's it, right? So now we've seen the voicemails, or listened to the voicemails together. We've seen the emails together, but then it's like a completely different world, right? If we go on here, the notifications are. It's a mix of stuff, right? There's new posts in this. I just put up, looks like it's all concerned citizen stuff, basically. When I went home, right, through that middle part, I spent some family time. There was a garage sale going on. My mother and sister were having. I fixed up the one car because I want to get that listed and sold. I cooked up some brats. Spent a tiny amount of time with my niece and nephew, that type of thing in between. But listing the car is happening now too, so I'm getting notifications on that. Right, and so if we go back, you can see, there's a mix in here. People doing lost dogs and stuff, which is all good. People talking about speeding, updates, about the meetings that I always do. So I'm glad people are engaging, in this and using it. You can obviously see there's a sample of hobby messages 1, sample of hobby messages 3, sample of hobby messages 2. Not too much activity on those. I'm guessing a number of people looked at him and stuff like that. I'm guessing the discussion has continued on the update on hobby issue that I had done yesterday at 3:34 there. We have update on hobby issue number 2, and so Al and I, we get along well. We disagree on various stuff. He's been really the only person that's been willing to come in and have the sit-down discussions. So I guess it's kind of the two of us driving the philosophical base of the township forward, which is why I don't mind engaging with him in here. Otherwise, I really don't have the conversations on Facebook. I've been debating philosophy online for the last couple of decades, really since I was 12. Got on message boards online, debated a lot of philosophy. And nothing usually comes of the conversations unless you know the person directly and you're having the conversation outside of Facebook as well. And even then, usually it's better to actually just have the conversation as a person instead of essentially what this turns you into, which is some sort of robot, right? Like social media filters you in a weird way, and even decent people come out very bad. So I don't usually have the conversation in there. I comment more on Al's stuff just because he's been willing to have the conversations with me, and I respect that. But you can see 22 comments there, right? There was more. There was 12 here. There's one up there on one of those. One of the right where that discussion started. There's 40 comments, right? Just over the last couple of days. And so all of this has developed. So a decent amount of activity and a decent amount of discussion, right? 22 comments there. A decent amount of discussion, right? Imagine if we had that number of people willing to sit down and have these discussions, right? Have these the video discussions, debates, conversations a couple of times a week. I've tried to get that going and whatnot with very, very limited success. I think the discussions are important to have, right? I think it's a foundation of this open, conversing, discussing society, working things out. So here's Ricky Hobby, and he blocked me now. And we can experience these together. Oh, you know what? We run into the same thing. I have headphones hooked up to this computer. And so I don't know if it's going to capture the audio correctly. All right, tech is, even though I end up doing a decent amount of sorting out the tech stuff, the switch up there, we got people running lines, we got people willing to do the computer stuff, but no one actually willing to plug the wires in, so I did a bunch of that, so I kind of fill in a little bit in these weird little tech open spaces, and obviously the microphone and the camera is picking up what I'm saying right now, but I normally listen to things, and even sometimes, if I have Zoom chats or video meetings and stuff, I speak through here as well. I think it works better. I used it for years when I was teaching. Very cheap. I buy the very cheap version and it works fine. But if I play those, I think the sound is going to come through those headphones right now. So I probably have to figure out how to reconfigure that. And don't want to do that with you on here because I'm not sure I'm going to be successful at it immediately. So I kind of need to test it. So I guess I'll test it on one of his previous messages, and we'll still experience the messages anew together. So, but I'll just shoot another video on that. I guess this one can be an extension kind of the update. That series that's kind of just developing organically, right, on its own. Another one will be a continuation of the message series. So that seems very reasonable, and then I can get that sorted so that it actually comes through the sound properly. All right, so yeah, all right, next one. We'll consider this update done, I guess. Until next time.